These are the celebs Ed Sullivan couldn't stand and were banned from the show. Ed Sullivan was one of America's most recognized and well-liked television hosts. He won hearts throughout the globe as the presenter of the very long-running and popular The Ed Sullivan Show, and had an incredible aptitude for identifying the greatest stars of the future to appear on his program as their big break. Nevertheless, behind the amazing ratings and global renown, the celebrity was concealing a slew of scandals, including nasty feuds with some of his most famous visitors. A star is born. Ed Sullivan was born on September 28, 1901 in Harlem, New York City as Edward Vincent Sullivan. He was raised in an Irish-American family with a strong love of music and culture. Sullivan was destined to be a star from an early age. His first taste of performing was actually as a sportsman. He led his squad to victories in a variety of team sports, including baseball, basketball, and football. Sullivan was definitely a team player, and this would come to define his character in more ways than one during his career. Young love. Sullivan grew up on the field as a young athlete, forming close bonds with his teammates. The inclusion he felt in team sports, playing alongside teammates and opponents of all races, led him to become an anti-racism activist. Yet his athletic career was laced with romance and subsequently tragedy. The teenage Ed Sullivan fell in love with Olympic swimmer Sybil Bauer and ultimately married her. Bauer died of cancer in 1924 when he was just 23 years old, leaving Sullivan distraught. Yet it would not be the future TV star's final attempt at love. Second chance. Sullivan's devastated heart started to mend around 2 years after the death of his beloved Sybil Bauer. As a result, by the time he met Sylvia Weinstein, he was ready for romance once again. Weinstein's Jewish family didn't approve of her dating Sullivan, an Irish Catholic, so she assumed his surname was Solomon. Nevertheless, the family finally discovered the truth, and the pair married under their own identities in 1930. Weinstein had no idea her husband would go on to become one of the most famous people in history. Baby Betty. Sullivan rapidly settled into a pleasant home life with his new bride after marrying Weinstein. They realized his new cherished wife was pregnant just a month after their marriage. In 1930, they received a daughter, Betty, who was named after Sullivan's mother, who had died a few months before. Yet the new parents had no clue that they were about to join a frenetic Hollywood world that would permanently impact their lives. Good news. After getting married and settling down, Sullivan began to shift his focus away from his high school athletics career and into the journalism and entertainment industries. While he began as a sports writer, he soon began writing articles for high-profile magazines such as the Evening Graphic and the New York Daily News. His Little Old New York column in the New York Daily News, which focused on theater and entertainment gossip, catapulted him to fame. By 1941, Sullivan had become so successful that CBS requested him to host their TV program, Summer Silver Theater, putting him on the fast track to fame. TV toast. CBS recognized Ed Sullivan as a great and unique hosting talent after his appearance on the Summer Silver Theater TV program. Thus, it appeared like an easy decision for the executives to hire him as the presenter of their new variety show, The Toast of the Town, which would highlight fresh and exciting talent in the entertainment industry. Sullivan, on the other hand, was demonstrating his own enormous talent, and his popularity led to the program being renamed The Ed Sullivan Show. Stage presence. One of the reasons viewers admired Ed Sullivan so much was not because he exuded professionalism and composure. In reality, Sullivan was noted for having an uncomfortable attitude, sometimes coming off as bashful and fluffing up his lines. This endeared him to the crowd, who found him approachable and easy to like. Behind the scenes, however, several of Sullivan's guests found his casual and informal presenting manner difficult to cope with. Star Maker. The Ed Sullivan Show was not just Sullivan's breakthrough smash. It immediately became regarded as the go-to spot for any band or entertainment group hoping to get into show business. It seems that your appearance on Sullivan's program was your first stepping stone in the profession. Sullivan became famed for his ability to uncover the brightest and most promising talent, and his guests went on to become some of the most famous stars of the period. Sullivan's guests had hidden feuds with him behind the scenes, despite the fact that appearing on his program was a golden ticket to stardom. Guest stars. Ed Sullivan established himself as one of the industry's most knowledgeable talent scouts. He had a talent for seeing promise in hundreds of performers and bringing them onto his program to give them their first taste of fame. People often tuned in to see what fresh talent he was bringing to them that day, but he would also welcome back famous performers to play more than once. The ventriloquist Senor Wences and his puppet Topo Gigio were among Sullivan's most popular recurring acts. Several of his visitors, however, got a cold greeting from Sullivan himself and were never invited again. Mindful moments. Ed Sullivan's program not only introduced some of the largest and brightest talents in the entertainment world, but it also accomplished a lot to raise awareness to more serious and vital issues. Sullivan brought Broadway director Joshua Logan onto his program in 1953 to talk candidly about his struggles with mental illness and his stay in a psychiatric facility. The show did wonders for raising awareness of mental illness in America, and Sullivan considered it to be one of his most pivotal events in his career. Yet it isn't the only good that Sullivan accomplished with his revolutionary program. Fighting prejudice. Sullivan used to play with individuals of various colors and socioeconomic backgrounds as a high school athlete. This left him with a strong sense of the need for tolerance and exclusiveness, which he tried hard to include into his program, despite opposition from certain TV executives at the time. For example, Sullivan was one of the few broadcasters that included black artists on his show, despite resistance and criticism. Sullivan highlighted groups such as the Supremes, James Brown, and Louis Armstrong throughout his tenure, helping them begin their careers and go on to become musical icons. True friendship. Despite widespread criticism at the time, Sullivan refused to listen to any biases against the black artists on his program and continued to offer them a platform that was often denied elsewhere. One specific performer became a personal friend of Sullivan's, forging a meaningful friendship that would last long after his death. When musician Bill Bojangles Robinson died, his close friend and fan, Sullivan, paid for his burial. Making a difference. Years later, a TV show was released that investigated the truth behind Sullivan's show and the lengths he went in order to combat racism and help black entertainers launch their careers. Sullivision investigated the impact of Sullivan's devotion to equality and anti-racism on the world of American entertainment and beyond. The Jackson 5, Marvin Gaye, Lena Horne, Smokey Robinson, Nat King Cole, and Ray Charles, among others, all got their big breaks on the iconic show. The King. Another historic performance on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1956. On September 9th of this year, rock and roll fully swept over America's hearts and minds, becoming the defining music of the age. This was due to the first performance of one Elvis Presley, dubbed the King of Rock and Roll. This program was so successful that 86.2% of all viewers in the country tuned in to see this historic performance. Sullivan was recognized with beginning the careers of several great artists, but his hidden feuds behind the scenes jeopardized the success of others. Making magic. As time passed, it became evident that Ed Sullivan was the ultimate scout for potentially mega-successful entertainment performers. He possessed a sixth instinct, anticipating which performers would be popular with his audiences and providing with the stage to propel them to immediate stardom. It's no wonder that Sullivan's program lasted over 50 years, reaching the pinnacle of show business talent. Some of his visitors, however, were privately despised by the legendary host, and once they'd provoked his anger, they would never be welcomed again. Beatlemania. Ed Sullivan had a musical ensemble from Liverpool, UK on his program in 1964. While they were well known in their home country, this band was expecting to break through in America with this performance. Can you identify who it was? The British foursome, of course, was none other than the Beatles. The Beatles' inaugural performance on Sullivan's program garnered 74 million viewers, more than a third of the total population of the United States, roughly 191 million at the time. Superstardom. And it wasn't only the guests who would become instant celebrities as a result of their time on the program. At this point, Sullivan had established himself as one of the most beloved personalities on American television, with his ratings hitting new heights each time the program aired. By 1954, the program had over 12 million regular viewers, and by the 1960s, it had grown to 14 million. Sullivan had clearly achieved stardom, but behind the scenes, things were taking a dark and terrible turn. Fans or frenemies. At this time, Sullivan had established himself as one of the most well-known and popular figures on American television. Not only that, but his name was associated with success. If you could obtain a slot on Sullivan's program, you were pretty much guaranteed immediate celebrity. Sullivan, despite his talent and popularity, became known behind the scenes for clashing with his guests if they didn't perform or act in the manner he thought was suitable. And if you fell out of the star's good graces, you could be certain that your invitation to the concert would be revoked. Not great buddies. In addition to being known as the premier talent scout and entertainment launchpad, Sullivan was developing a darker image behind the scenes as a notoriously sensitive and chronic grudge holder. One of his most prominent examples was of Buddy Holly's appearance on the program. The tension is palpable even on television, with Sullivan purposely mispronouncing Holly's name as he introduces him. Meow. What caused this public snub? He supposedly begged Holly to tone down some of his more explicit lyrics in his song Oh Boy, but Holly refused. This was only the beginning of Sullivan's lengthy line of Hollywood feuds. Diddly squat. Ed Sullivan had notoriously alleged dispute with massively successful musician Bo Diddley over his lengthy career. Bo Diddley got confused about which song he was scheduled to perform on stage prior to his appearance on the program and ended up playing 2 songs rather than 1. Or would have if Sullivan hadn't cut him off after the first one. The error supposedly enraged Sullivan to the point that he refused to allow Diddley back on the program, feeling humiliated that he hadn't followed directions correctly. Diddley, on the other hand, went on to become a huge celebrity. Finger feud. A few years after the Bo Diddley incident, the Ed Sullivan Show recruited super popular comic Jackie Mason to a 6-episode deal for allegedly $45,000. Unfortunately, due to an event that occurred in 1964, this contract was shortly canceled. In what is now known as the Finger Incident, Jackie Mason pointed towards Sullivan, who assumed he was giving him the bird. Mason's contract was immediately revoked, and the two engaged in a protracted legal struggle about the reality of the charges. Sullivan, a firm believer in manners and good television etiquette, was very humiliated.